Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. We'll get started here in just a minute. The training lasts about an hour and a half. We do record the trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can always come back later and continue it at your leisure. You can also share the link with other staff members who need to be system admins. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask questions about any feature as I'm going over them, and I'll try to address the questions as I see them. And there are some links in the show notes. Some of them are for other videos about specific features because they do better on their own as their own video. And there's two links also that go to the support pages, one to a specific document and one to the general support pages. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So here you see our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. To get logged in, we need three pieces of information. The first is your username. That's your email address, and it should be in all lowercase letters. Your password, which is case sensitive. And then the account name. That's typically your organization name. All right, it can be your own name if you signed up with your own name. And that's not case sensitive. Now, if for some reason you can't log in with that, or you didn't get the email with your password information, down here at the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. It'll flip the box around. This is basically a new form to fill out. Still need your username, right? So we'll still your email address. And then we need one of these two following pieces of information. So we need either the account name or a phone number on the account. And that's a customer-facing phone number, right? So like your main number on the account, for example. And then you would click on the reset password bar here. That's going to send you an email, right? In the body of the email, there'll be a link that lets you log in temporarily. Basically allows you to change your password. And then it logs you back out, right? So and once you try to navigate away from that page, it's going to also log you out, take you back to this page here to log you in. So you use that new password. Right, you have the option here for clicking on Remember Me, so you have one less password to remember. I do generally recommend bookmarking this page as a system admin since it'll be easier for you to get back here in the future, should you need to. And then you get logged in. Now, I'm using a test account that I log into on a regular basis, so it is taking me here to the dashboard page, showing me a snapshot of my account. If it's your first time logging in, you actually get taken to your user account page. And you can always get back to your user account page by clicking on your name, which you can find at just to the right of the center, or go to the top of the page and just to the right of center. You'll see your name there. You can click on that. It's going to open up a big old pop-up, and this is your user account page. So this is where you could go to change your password, for instance. Now, as an admin, I also have access over here on the left-hand side to the account level settings. So like I could change who the technical contact is, for example, as well as the account-wide time zone over display language. As an admin, or any admin, can also activate add-ons to the account, right? These are just adding additional features to your account rather than necessarily either changing plans or maybe a feature that for whatever reason wasn't turned on when you're changed plans. And they'll be listed as what's available to you, and you would click to enable. Now, if there is a cost associated with it because of the plan you're on, there'll be a pop-up letting you know your bill will increase by such amount per month, right? And then you have to click confirm to continue with that feature, right? So then if you click exit or cancel, then you won't be charged, nor will you have the feature. Down here under billing, you have the billing portal. That is the link that gets you to the billing portal, and it will request your email address and send you a PIN number, so then you can get logged in there, and that's where you would do things like view previous invoices or update your payment method. Then you have cancel account. Any admin can cancel the account. There'll be a little form here or a little button at the bottom right here. You click on that and then follow the instructions. This will cancel the account and it will basically close on your next billing date. Right. So basically you have time to get any like voicemail messages or recordings downloaded beforehand. When you're done up here, click on the close button towards the top right, and you'll be taken here to your dashboard page. So up at the top again, you have your name. Click on that to get to that user account page. To the right of your name, most people will have a D&D toggle, right? D&D standing for Do Not Disturb. Mine is currently active, so I'm not accepting calls, right? If I click on it, it will change. So it's mostly black, meaning that now it's not active, so I am taking calls. And I'll click it back just because I don't need to have calls come in while we're going through the training here. Now, if you don't have it on your, or the people who would not have it up, the D&D toggle would be if they're assigned as part of the call center, right? Part of the queues, if you have that feature. All right, so then we have the little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab, and that tab goes to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It has a login page, which just uses your dash login. If you have a web phone device on your user, you can use your dash login on that page to log in and use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls directly from those browsers. Now, web phone counts as a VoIP device, and it's only supported on the desktop versions of the browsers. The mobile versions of the browsers are not supported. Little chat bubble icon here. This opens up new tag and takes you to, or new tab, excuse me. It takes you to virtualtext.app. Has its own login information, and that is where you would make use of texting, right? SMS use. If you just signed up with us, you're going to need to go through SMS registration, and that means you're going to want to talk to our account services team. You can schedule a meeting with them, and they'll go over what's involved in terms of SMS registration. I believe last I saw there was like a one-time setup fee, so they want to make sure you're aware of that and you're okay with that. But then they can enable the feature, and then you can go through the registration process as well as get the feature updated or activated on your users. Excuse me. All right, little question mark icon. This opens up chat window at the bottom right of your browser and lets you speak to one of our support staff. And so then, or even our sales staff if you need to add like a second account or something like that. But in general, for our support team, and they can help you with a particular feature or like adding a VoIP phone. This 3 horizontal line icon here, that's the menu icon. This takes you to other dash features. The majority of our training will be on the dashboard. Like that's fully like 90% of the training, easily, not 90, if not more. But we'll touch on these other subjects to some degree. And then a little arrow icon here to the right, that's to log out of the page. Here in the center, I have total users, right? So I have 5 users on my account, right? So, and most of our plans are based on a per user basis, right? So I'm paying for each of these people to be on here. If I remove one, right, my bill would go down. If I add a couple, my bill would go up. Total devices, I have currently 11 devices on my account. And first up, we have these little, this breakdown here. First up is softphone. This is a software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So it's a VoIP phone. In terms of the number of soft phones, which looks like 5, that includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app or any third-party soft phone apps you might be using. All right, then we've got the web phone, right, that Chrome or Firefox device. also counts as a VoIP phone. I have a couple cell phones here. Uh, so you can add a cell phone or landline phone number as a device on your account. It's basically a contact number. So we can send calls to your cell phone. Now, when you take a call on your cell phone, right, that's an endpoint. You're not going to be able to transfer that call to another staff member. And then here we've got the SIP phone. This is a physical VoIP phone, right? So typically sits on a desk connected via an Ethernet cable to get to your router, to get out on the internet. And these are, when it's under SIP phone, these are the auto provision phones. So like many Yailing phones, some Cisco, Grandstream, Polycom, etc. Basically, when you're shopping for phones, you want to make sure you're looking for SIP compliant or SIP compatible phones. And when we get to devices, you can see a list of compatible phones when we get to that. Down here, unregistered devices, I have one, and that means I've turned off one of my devices here on my dashboard versus just removing it completely. Then I've got total numbers. I have 16 phone numbers on my account. Your account includes some amount of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price, right? It's typically a main number and then potentially an additional local number per user. After that, you're paying an overage. I believe for new accounts, it's $4.99 per month per phone number. You can check the pricing page if you just signed up. If you're an older plan, you may want to talk to our account services team. So in this case, I am definitely paying an overage, right? Since I only have the 5 users and I have multiple main numbers. So I'm paying for extra phone numbers here. I have 2 breakdowns. First up here is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number is the number I'm using, right? Someone can dial one of the assigned numbers and expect to speak to someone, leave a voicemail, join a conference, or be sending a fax. Right? Spare number counts towards my allotment. I'm just not currently using it. So for instance, let's say I'm based in California, for example, and I'm going to open a new store in Reno, Nevada, right? Just the next state over, different area code, right? Well, I want that store to have its own phone number so people can call it for, whatever purposes. I can get that number ahead of time so I can prepare my marketing materials and whatnot, but I can keep it out of service as a spare number until I know I have people there to answer the call or I'm ready to take calls at that location. Next up, we have USDAD and US toll free. US toll free is actually a US Canada toll free number, right? 888 or 800, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. USDID just means a US local number, right? So like the number in San Jose, California, and another number in Reno, Nevada. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you're interested in adding them, you'd want to email our porting team, and that's porting@virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in. They'll let you know if we can get numbers in said country and if there's any additional requirements, right? And those additional requirements come from the country in question. Next, we have conference bridges. I have 3. That means I've enabled 3 of my users here to moderate or host a conference. And basically, once I have a conference room number added, I can make use of that conference feature. Over here to the top right, I can't really highlight it because it starts loading a new page. But up here at the top right, first up is my main number box. So I have these 4 numbers, right? They're all going to the same area of my system. In this case, that means they're all going to my virtual receptionist, where they're all going to play the same main greeting. Right? Next up, I have the conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. They're all going to the same location on your system, or the same set of conference rooms, I guess I should say. And even your staff would have to call this number, right? Anyone who wants to join the conference calls that number, and then they'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. Then we got the main fax box number. You can have one main fax box number right? So your inbound fax number. This also allows you to edit the associated fax box so that you can allow for outbound faxing. You can enable that for you and your staff, and we'll get into that a bit later. Then we've got the company directory here. There's two downloads. One's a CSV, the other is a soft phone. The CSV is just that. It's a CSV file you download, and you can open it up with your favorite spreadsheet program. It's going to list everyone on your account, right? All the users, their names, their extension numbers, their email addresses, their devices. The soft phone download is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. So if you're using our soft phone app on a Mac or Windows PC, you can download that soft phone file, upload it to your VirtualPBX soft phone app, and you'll see on your contact list all of your coworkers who have the VirtualPBX soft phone. And you'll be able to see the status of their soft phone, right? Whether they're on a call or not. Right? So if that's what everyone uses, like that's the only device, right? Then it's an easy way to see the status for everybody. All right, up here at the top, this blue bar, we have this caller ID button, and you click on that. This pull down would let you see your, in this case, my 4 main numbers, and you can select one of them. Whichever one you select becomes your default number, right? That means that's what your VoIP phones would use by default for their outbound caller ID, among a couple other features, right? And then you would click on Save Changes. Hold music. You can upload your own hold music. Now, to explain what this hold music is after the call has come into your system and reached one of your staff members, and they've answered the call with their VoIP phone, then they press the hold button on their VoIP phone. That's when this hold music file will play. You can upload your own file, a .wav or .mp3 file, up to 1 megabyte in size. Because of that size limit, we do recommend recording in mono. That way you can get a longer playing file. For instance, a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. This pull down here, which unfortunately is not showing, but that will show any existing media files you already have on the account. Otherwise, you would click on the Browse button to find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon, wait for it to finish uploading, and then click Save Changes. And then by default, that will be the hold music for everyone on your account. Now, this hours button will take you to our hours of operation. However, that's part of main number. And especially for that initial setup, you want to have destinations set up on your account before you get into organizing your main number and how that routes. So with that in mind, over here on the left-hand side, we're going to click on the Users tab, a little person with a desk icon. And here I see all my users on the account. The people with the blue suit icon, right, those are your system admins. So they can make all the changes we're talking about. Dante, the second person down here, you see is a little gray person icon. He's a standard user. So he has very limited access on the account. Basically, he can log in, he can view his own voicemails, he can update his or enable his call forwarding for himself, and a couple other things, but he's not going to be able to make changes to the system or even like add a device to his own user. Up here at the top, you would click on Add User to add additional staff members, and you get this box to fill out. Right, first name, last name, the system wants some sort of text. Right, I've literally seen customers put A and A for that as a placeholder. The email address used for login, this needs to be unique for each user. Right, so you're not reusing an email address for multiple staff members. And that email address is what the system uses to communicate with your staff. Right, so for like password resets, voicemail notifications. Then password, you create a password for the user. And then the main extension number, right? That's their default extension number. The system will suggest an extension number, right? It starts you off with extension 1000, so it will start you off with the next one as extension 1001. you can change that to whatever you want, right? I usually recommend 4-digit extensions because that gives you the most versatility and room for growth. That way you're not like using like 0 through 9, and then you don't have any other things for menu options. Now, this first box here is checked. That's create voicemail box for the user. That's a voicemail box that's intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, after you create the user and you add a VoIP phone to them, that VoIP phone gets registered. That staff member can pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98. That logs them into this voicemail box you just created. The system, and that first time they call in that way, the system will then walk them through creating a voicemail box PIN number, as well as setting up their voicemail box greeting. They'll also be given the option to go through personal options where they can record their name, which is what the system would use for the PBX directory or company directory, which, speaking of, right here, this option here is where you can include them in that user directory. Just put a check mark here, and this is something you can change later, back and forth as necessary. The third option here, send emails to an alternate address. So if you want those voicemail notifications or password resets to go to a different email address than the one that's used for login, you can click on this box here and then enter that alternate email address. This is also something you can change later or adjust later. And then the fourth option here, send credentials to the user. I generally recommend putting a check mark here. That way, when you click on either create user or create user and add another, they get an email welcoming them to the Dash account as well as having their login information. The create user and add another is what you would use if you're adding multiple people. All right, once a user is created, you can always click on their name. And if you need to, you can change their name. Here is where you would change their credentials, right? So there you can change their email address, you would change their password and confirm. You can also send them the password reset email directly. Right, and then you would click on Save Changes, and then Save Changes down here. Here you can change their voicemail box PIN number. Just enter 4 digits, and then Save Changes. All right. Here's the option to send to an alternate address, and then here's the option for being in the user directory. Little person icon to the right of that, that's this pull down allows you to change an admin to a user or a user into an admin. Little clock icon here. This pull down allows you to change the time zone for the user, right? So that way their voicemail timestamps are showing the correct time. Ringing timeout. By default, this is set to 20 seconds. That's plenty of time to send calls to a VoIP phone or a landline. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you'd want to increase this to 30 seconds, possibly even longer. It simply takes longer or more time to route a call to a cell phone than it does to say a landline, right? Landline telecom knows exactly where the phone is. Cell phone telecom needs to find the phone first before they can send the call through. Pardon me. All right. The extension box, you can click on that. You can add additional extensions to a user, right? So if you need to have a user have multiple extensions, you can do so. Then we have the phone number box. You can assign a phone number directly to a user. Now, when you do that, the phone number is available 24/7. There's no hours of operation or holidays for this number. It will ring through every day at all times. Whenever you have an option to add a number, you have two choices. You can add from spare. That means that's assuming you have spare numbers available, or you can buy numbers. And buy numbers is just adding new numbers to the account. So let's say, for instance, like you're like this account and had 5 users, and your account you only added a main number to start. Even if you click buy numbers, you're not going to be charged immediately because your account includes a per local, another local number per user. Anyway, add from spare, if when you click on add from spare, it's going to show you your available numbers. You would just click on the box in front and then click on add selected. And you would see it shows up here. And then you would need to click on save changes. Right? Since I didn't click save changes, it didn't stay there. By new numbers, you have an option here from either local or toll-free. Toll-free, choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with, and then click on search. And it should populate a list of available numbers. And if you scroll down, it will add more. And click add next to any number you want. You can add multiple if you want to. Now, at this point, you haven't reserved the numbers, right? Just because they're in your cart. You actually have to click on by numbers. And that's actually when you have acquired the numbers, right? The system's verifying that the numbers are actually still available and then activating them and adding them to the account. So if I had just added them to the cart and walked away, it's possible by the time I came back, someone could have actually completed the process and added those numbers, and so I wouldn't be able to get them. Local numbers, slightly different in that you need to know the area code that you want to add a phone number in. You click on search, any area code, and that includes the toll-free prefixes. You can get this error message, right? And that's just saying there's no readily available numbers in this area code, right? So 310 is in Los Angeles. So what you would want to do at that point is use your favorite search engine and do a search, in this case, for area code 310 overlay. That will tell you if there are any overlay area codes for that. And in this case, that overlay area code is 424. Right? So that means area code 310 and 424 have the exact same geographic boundaries. Right? They overlap. Someplace like Los Angeles, and a lot of major metropolitan areas, you might want to look at a map to see if there's other nearby area codes that would work for you as well. But beyond that, same process, right? Find a phone number you like, click on add, click on by number, and then the system will add it to your account. Now you notice there's a little gear icon here next to each of the numbers. First up is caller ID. So every number, you can add an outbound name to the phone number, right? Now you can, in the box here to the right, you can add up to 15 characters. It counts spaces as part of that 15, and then we'll associate that with your phone number when you make an outbound call. And then down here, you can turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM information. And so that way that information would show up on your staff members' phones. One thing to know about the outbound CNAM, right? We can only control the information we send out. It's possible that when your call goes out, it routes through a carrier that doesn't support that feature, which means it doesn't get through to your endpoint, right? Once you enter information here and click Save Changes, it takes 3 business days for the other carriers who support the feature to update their servers. The main thing to know, though, about the CNAM information is that last carrier, the receiving carrier, they get final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. So in an ideal situation, they see the number and the name that we're sending, and they just pass it through. The most common thing that happens, because most people are calling cell phones, is that the cell phone carrier passes the number through, and that's it. They won't pass the name through. Like my cell phone carrier, they want to charge me $10 a month to have that CNAM information show up when calls come to my cell phone. I know some other carriers also charge, and it's usually in the area between like $5 and $10 for most carriers that I've seen. I didn't feel that was worthwhile for me, so I didn't do it. Some people do. So be aware of when you're making test calls to cell phones that your name information probably will not get through. Next up is E911. Each phone number you can set up having its own E911 address. This then allows you to assign phone numbers to particular VoIP phones for the purposes of 911 only, right? So that way your staff member who works from home picks up their phone, dials 911 from their VoIP phone, their correct address gets transmitted to emergency services versus your corporate headquarters. Prepend, this is a VoIP phone feature. And in this box here to the right, you can enter text that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones to let them know what the call is about. Right. So on a user, right, you could put something in like the word direct. Right. So that way your staff members, when they see the call come up on their phone, they'll see the word direct and then the inbound person's phone number. So that way, oh, they called my number directly versus coming in through the main number. All right. Next up, we have the device box. Right. So you can add from spare, right, would be reusing an existing device, or you can add new devices. First up is SIP phone. So you have these manufacturers to choose from. Right. Some like Yealink have a lot of models to choose from. Some like Obahai only have like a dozen. Right. They all range in between that, but find the make and model of the phone you want to work with. Right. Click on the little icon there. Give it a name. Right. So like Bob's phone or warehouse phone, that sort of thing. And then the MAC address. This is unique to each device, right? Typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone is plugged in under its like basic or status and then network, you should be able to find the MAC address. You would enter it here, click on create device, right? And then click on save changes. You'd want to click on the box again. And yeah, then click on the name of the device. So here you see your basic information. Go over to advanced and then go to miscellaneous. And where it says allow reprovision, you want to click on unlock. You should get a little green message up here saying we've unlocked it, then save changes, and then save changes again. So now you've just told the system, hey, I'm going to reprovision this phone, right? Or provision this phone, meaning we're going to get it set up. Now, in terms of our dashboard here, you're done. However, you need to log into that phone's user interface, which means getting its IP address and putting that IP address in your web browser. If you go in the show notes, there's the auto provisioning phones document that will have steps on how to do so, and basically where to go with these various manufacturers in that phone interface to add a URL. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go here, get your config file. You'll click on an update or save or confirm, tell the phone to auto provision. So it's going to go grab that file, download it. It's going to reboot at least a couple times. And then after that, it would show up as a green device here on your dashboard, like you know that it is registered and ready to go. Next up is cell phone. Right? This would also apply to landline. Give it a name, right? So like your name, cell phone, pretty easy to do. And then in the number field, you would +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then click on create device, and then save changes. So if we click here on this cell phone here, right, you see, gave it a name, right, +1 area code and number. Now we'll go to the advanced options. This is the default setup for a newly added cell phone or landline. And I bring this up because I want to describe what happens when a call comes to your cell phone through the system, right? So a call comes in, rings your cell phone, right? You pick up. First thing you're going to hear is, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call, right? It then connects the other person to you, and you can begin speaking, right? Works. That's a good on audio way to know, oh, this is a work call, right? And it works as long as it's a person who's answering the call. But let's say, for instance, you've also contracted out with another company for an automated answering service to handle your calls after hours. They give you a phone number, say, hey, just send your calls here after hours, we'll handle it. So you would add that phone number that they gave you as a cell phone or landline device on your account. However, you would not want to leave it like this, especially this top one here, right? Because an automated answering service, not going to be able to press 1 to accept the call, right? So we'd send it to them, they would pick up, and then we wouldn't hear that one tone, so then the callers wouldn't be able to connect to the answering service, right? So your customer gets frustrated, you're frustrated with the answering service when we have to, all you have to do is here, come in here, put a check mark in front of this first option, which is allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What this means is now when we send a call to this phone number, there's no message about this is a forwarded call or pressing 1. In fact, when the system hears that pickup tone, it connects the call. Right? So then the automated answering service can handle it. Everyone's happy. If you have this checked on your actual personal cell phone, what can happen is your cell phone voicemail can pick up. That's still a pickup tone. So that inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Another thing that can come up is this one here is keep original caller ID. So say customer Mary's calling into the system, reaches your cell phone. On your cell phone, you see customer Mary's phone number. Say you don't recognize it. So you let it go to voicemail, right? Especially in the US, we're getting into election season. This year, we're going to all get more political calls than we want to deal with. So you might want to uncheck this, which is this keep original caller ID. So what happens now is when customer Mary calls in, instead of seeing her phone number on your cell phone, you would see this number appear that you selected, right? So hopefully you would recognize your main company number, and so then you'd be willing to pick it up. All right, next device I want to cover is the soft phone. Whenever you add a soft phone or web phone to the account, you're going to get this warning message. I recommend that you read it at least once, if not multiple times. It's basically covering wireless VoIP technology and 911. But once you've read it, go ahead and click on close. You're going to get a big box showing up here shortly, hopefully. There we go. Now, this box is adding a new soft phone. Now, it defaults to adding a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using someone else's soft phone application, right? Not VirtualPBX. That's fine if you want to do so. We're not going to, we don't make you use our stuff. No matter what, you're going to give it a name, right? So, Bob soft phone. The SIP username, right? You just copy and paste that into whatever application you're using. For the SIP password, right? Click on SIP password box here to reveal the password and then copy and paste that into your application. Please do not change it or delete this. And then you would copy and paste your realm. Right, those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision that third-party soft phone. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, down here at the bottom, right, it's grayed out, but it says use third-party application. This is a toggle. So you can click on it. So now it says use VirtualPBX application. Still need a device name, right? Then you would click on create device and then save changes. Once you click on save changes, Dante here would get an email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. In that email, it's going to have his login information for use with the app, as well as download links so he can download the app to either his phone or his computer. In fact, he could use it on both, just not at the same time, right? So like at most of the time he's at his desk, he could use the soft phone, say, on his Mac. And then let's say he's going to go, he's going to a customer site. He would log out of the soft phone on his Mac and then log into it on his phone, right? The app on his phone. And then the web phone, again, you get that warning message. You just need to give it a name, and then you would click on create device and then save changes. And then Dante could go to webphone.virtualpbx.net and log in with his Dash login, use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. Right, next up, we have user features. First up is caller ID number. this is for use with users that have their own phone number. You would click it to turn it on. And what this is doing is allowing you to change what their outbound caller ID is going to be, right? So by default, right? So if we turn this back off, uh, when I make an outbound call from my VoIP phones, right, I use that main number that we selected under the dashboard page, right, that caller ID. However, if I turn this on, I can select the number that's on the user, for instance, to use as their outbound caller ID. So like if you have salespeople based on a specific region, right, you probably want to them have a phone number that's in their location, so that way it's more comforting to whoever they're calling. Voicemail box, right? By default, this is the default setup for a new voicemail box, right? And basically we're attaching messages to the email. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot accept any more. You have 3 ways to listen to messages, 2 ways to manage, right? The first way to listen is via this email, right? So in that email, right, in the body of the email, you have the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, the voicemail box number, MP3 attachment. You can click on it, listen to it, but that doesn't do anything in terms of your voicemail box management. You can always call into your voicemail box, right? So VoIP phone, pick it up, *98 logs you right into it. You can listen to it over the phone. Messages over the phone, you can delete them. Even from a cell phone, right? You can call into your main number if you have it set up to go into a virtual receptionist. When you hear your main greeting play, you can enter *97, right? That's it. And then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number and the PIN number. Again, listen to them or delete them. The other way is up here under the menu, under your user portal. It defaults you to your voicemail tab, so you can play them back, you can download them. And here at the front, a little check mark, and you can change its status. All right, follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. Now, as an admin, you would have to set this up for them. All right, so you click enable, and now you're deciding how are calls being offered to their devices. Now, it defaults to everything being on do not ring because you need to tell which devices are you going to use. Just uncheck which ones you want to use. All right, you have a little green bar here. You click and drag it to the right to give it a ring time. Oops. Now, up here along the top here, these are timestamps, so I can change the total ring time. I can click distribute. So now I'm equalizing out the ring time between the 2 devices. I can click and drag to change the order. Let's say, my staff member tells me, hey, I'm going to be, visiting a couple customer sites. Can you make sure my cell phone's part of the call mix? You would have to come in here, uncheck their cell phone, and you can click distribute, so it's always the 3rd one, or even extend it so it's the whole time since you're not sure, how much of their day they're going to be away from their desk. And you would click on Save Changes when you're done. Oh, with it disabled, right? So I have it right now, it's not enabled. This user has 3 devices. Any call that is offered to him, right, all 3 of his devices ring. If I go back and enable it, right, and I say save changes. If I put this user in a ring group, calls from the group ignore the follow me settings, right? So it would ring all 3 in that case as well. So something to bear in mind. Fax box, you can add a fax box directly to a user, right? You would click enable, and then you have the option here to select spare number, buy a number, or assign a new extension. I recommend making use of a phone number, whether you're using a spare number or buying a new number. That allows this user to send and receive faxes basically without any issues. Now, assign an extension saves you money, right? Because it's not an extra phone number on the account. The downside is this user will never be able to send a fax out because the system will use the parameters of their fax box, including the extension number, um, as and in terms of for outbound faxing, and it uses that extension number as the outbound caller ID. Additionally, you potentially limit who can send them a fax, right? Some electronic fax services don't have the ability to send, or I don't know if they have the ability, or may not allow people to fax to an extension number. Even with an analog fax machine, right? The person sending a fax would have to know how to add an extension number to the outbound caller ID and or listen in, right? Say call your main number, listen to the greeting, and then enter the extension number and then send fax, right? Just extra levels of complication. Now, once you've added this, or when we get to the main fax box number, we can cover it as well. But sending a fax out is via email, right? You would just put in +1 area code and phone number of where you're faxing to, and then put in your account realm, attach a PDF or TIFF, and you send it away. Conference Bridge, click up here to enable the conference feature on a user, right? So that means that they can host or moderate a conference. You need to give them a conference room PIN number. This is something they can change under the user portal. The enable video conferencing, that's for in-house VoIP phone users, right? So someone calling in from their cell phone, they're not gonna be able to make use of it. And even if someone's on a VoIP phone, if they're not part of your account and they call in, again, not making use of video. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Now, your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own. Right? They can do that under the user portal. They can also do that directly from their VoIP phones. Failover mode is something you have to set up for them, and this is for when if their VoIP phone should go offline, right? Loses registration for whatever reasons, and a call comes into them, right? You can have this set up so that way, like you can put their cell phone number here, right? Put +1 area code number, click Save Changes. That way, automatically, their VoIP phone goes offline, call comes into them, the system will automatically forward the call to that cell phone number that the phone number you designated. Now, in the case of my user here that already has a cell phone as part of my call mix, right, or my device mix, I don't need to have either any of the call forwarding features enabled because it's already forwarding to my cell phone. Right, customized call recording. And by default, when you enable the feature up here, right, it looks like this. So you're not actually recording anything yet. You need to tell the system which kind of calls you want to record. Inbound internal, right? My coworker Dante calls me. Do I want to record it or do I not want to? Right? Inbound external, right? So customer Mary calls. Probably want to record that. Right? Outbound external, I called coworker Dante. And then outbound external, I called customer Mary. So we usually see something like this, right? The external ones or all. Right? And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. However, if you have heavy call volume and you're recording every call, you'd want to talk to our account services team about AWS integration, and that allows you to link your Dash account to your own AWS account so you can store your call recordings there. And that's also something we recommend for people working in insurance because I believe there's a regulation involved to keep your call recordings for 10 years. Music on hold. You can have your users have their own hold music if you want them to. So you would click up here to enable and then click upload, right, to find the .wav or .mp3 file that you want to use. So for instance, you want your salespeople to have hold music that talks about, special promotions that you're running versus your tech support people, you probably just have a generic message or something about, hey, visit our website. Do not disturb, right? Click to enable or click to disable. As an admin, you'd probably do this on a user who had to leave because of a family emergency kind of thing. Right? So that way they're just not getting calls, or anyone who has to speak to them can leave a voicemail. Hot desking, this is a VoIP phone feature. This designed for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. So you would click to enable, and then you enter a hot desk ID. If you're making use of 4-digit extensions, I just say use their extension number as their hot desk ID number. You can choose to require a PIN number, and then you would click on Save Changes. So, for instance, I come into the office on Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 2. I pick up the VoIP phone that's there. I dial *11 and click call. All right, the system will ask me for my hot desk ID. I enter that. It will then tell me calls and I'll be sent to this device. Right, so the rest of my workday, anyone who's trying to reach me rings at the phone I'm sitting at. All right, end of the workday, pick up the phone, hit *12, enter my hot desk ID, and then now calls are not going to be sent to this phone. Next time I come into the office, let's say that's Friday, someone's already at desk number 2. I say, hey, good morning. I sit down at desk number 4. Pick up the phone, *11, enter hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to me at desk number 4. All right, next up we have groups, sometimes referred to as hunt groups or ring groups, right? A group of people answering calls about a similar topic, right? Departments. Up here at the top is where you would click on Add Group. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number. Then you click and drag your staff members over here to the right and click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. You can always change the name if you need to. Then you've got group call attempts. There's little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease that as necessary. Here's your option to delete a group, or if you make any changes, click on Save Changes. The group call attempts is how many times the system will offer the calls to the inbound, or the inbound calls to your staff members. Now, next to the right here, we got the members box, right? Shows my staff members who are assigned and how I'm offering calls to them. Right? So slightly staggered right now. All right. Sort of like the follow me, right? You can adjust the ring times. So I can do something like this, right? So this is ring all or blast ringing. And then basically whoever of my staff picks up the call first gets it, right? Now, in an office environment, probably not an issue, right? Like if Taylor and Dante pick up a call at the same time, right? One of them is going to hear dead air, right? They can say, hello, hello, no one's there. The other one's going to actually be speaking to the customer. But they could probably hear that, right? Remote working, you might need to use something like Slack or Teams just to make sure, hey, did so-and-so pick up the call? Did who picked up the call, right? Or admin would go through the call logs to see, make sure the call was answered properly versus saying some kind of issue. Now, along the top here, timestamps, right? It defaults to 120 seconds, 2 minutes. So you can click distribute, so it equalizes out over time, or equalizes the time among your staff member, excuse me. Now, one thing to be aware of when a call comes to the groups, right? So first call comes in, David answers. If a second call comes in, even though David's already on a call, the system doesn't skip him. So it still tries to offer that second call to David for 40 seconds in this case, right? Then after that 40 seconds, it rolls over to Dante, excuse me. Right, so if David and Dante are both on a call, a third call comes in, that third caller is waiting 80 seconds before it's offered to Taylor. So that's why you would maybe want to adjust the ring times. Now, if that doesn't work for you or your call volume is such that this is not workable, you'd want to talk to our services team about the call center, right? The call center, ACDQs, they're an advanced version of groups. There's more routing options. It will skip people who are on a call automatically. Your staff members can log themselves in and out of the queue or mark themselves away, that sort of thing. All right. Extension number. Groups have the one extension number that you added when they created, but you can add multiple if you need to do so. right? Groups can also have their own phone number, right? Add from spare or by new, just like we did under users. And just like users, adding a number to a group, that means that this phone number is available 24/7. We have group features. First up is ring back. So call comes into the group, right? Offers it to my staff members. Their phones start to ring. That ringing sound is then piped back to my inbound caller, right? So that's where ring back term comes from. But let's say I don't want that. I'm like, that's kind of boring. So I can upload a media file to play instead, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 MB. The main thing to remember is, or to know, is that the system will not loop the ringback file for you, right? So you want to make sure your ringback file, the duration of it, matches or exceeds the total ring time you have set up for the group, right? So groups start off at 2 minutes. So by default, you want to make sure your ringback file plays for 2 minutes. Next action. Basically, if no one's able to pick the call, what do you want the system to do with the caller? So up here, you click enable. Down here, you click where you want to send the caller. Right? Typically, it's a voicemail box, but you can send it to another group, a specific user, a specific device. You can send back to your main menu, etc. Allow call forward. Click to enable. Click on save changes. Now your users can make use of call forwarding from calls that are coming into the group. But again, if they have a cell phone as part of their normal mix, you don't need to make use of it. Obviously, if you have a mix of users, some who have just VoIP phones and some who have both, then you'd want to enable call forwarding so that way your VoIP phone users can make use of it if necessary. Caller ID prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can add either text or numbers that show up in front of the caller ID on your staff members' VoIP phones. Right, again, a way to give them a heads up about what the call might be about. I recommend making use of one or the other. I personally prefer text versus adding additional numbers in front of the caller ID, just so that way it doesn't mess me up when I try, need to get the phone number of the customer from my phone in case I need to call them back. All right, so we have users with devices, we have groups. So let's go to main number now. Main number page sometimes takes a little bit to load, so just be aware of that. First up, you have your main company numbers. So these are your main numbers. You can add from spare or by new, right? So they would all act the same way. You've got the little gear icon here to update caller ID, E911, or prepend. Then you can do your office hours strategy. So for new accounts, you start off by default and on 24-hour open office, right? Meaning you're ready for business or ready to accept calls. Most customers change it to custom office hours. So for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. These boxes here to the right, you set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here towards the bottom, if you're closed for lunch at the same time every day, put a check mark here and then enter your lunch hours in the boxes provided. And then you would click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark there. And then over here to the right, you have the option to add holidays. You have single day, date range, or advanced. Single day is like I have here for Christmas Day, right? So it gives you a new row, right? Each one of those. You give it a name, you choose the month, you choose the date, click on Save Changes. Date range, similar, right? You give it a name, choose a start date, an end date, Save Changes. Advanced is like I have here for Memorial Day, right? So after the name, I choose the month. This second pull down, you have first through fifth as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then Save Changes. If you need to remove a holiday, you would click on the little trash icon and then Save Changes. Incoming call handling. So for my 4 main numbers, how do I want my calls handled during my open hours, during my after hours, or during the holidays? So my open hours, I have this first option selected, which is calls are going to my virtual receptionist. And you notice that the virtual receptionist is actually a link. So we can click on that. It's going to open up this big box. So on the left, this is my main menu. This is what people can press on their phones to navigate through my system. You click on Add Route to give yourself a new route. The first pull down, you can choose from the default action, which is what it starts you off at, but you can change it to anywhere from 0 through 9, as well as the star key. Right now, you can't repeat digits, obviously. And then the second pull down are things on your system, right? Users, groups, specific device, queues if you're making use of queues, even a media file if you wanted, etc. Right, but they have to already be on your system, right? That way you don't have to go back and forth all the time. Over here on the right, we have greetings, right? This is where you say thank you for calling, typically your organization name, and then you want to give directions on how to navigate through the phone system. Now, first up is text-to-speech. So in the box provided, you can type in the greeting you want to use, right? So then the system will play it back in a computerized or robotic voice. In the box provided, you can enter up to 250 characters, not words. It does not count spaces. And this is good to use for if you're just starting out, right? You're not sure exactly how maybe you're going to route calls yet, that sort of thing. Now, the system doesn't allow you to name the file, right? It names it for you. So in this case, right, it would name it main, open hours, menu, and then TTS for text-to-speech. My recommendation is after you create a text-to-speech greeting, right? So you would click update, save, and then next page over, save changes. Over here on the left, click on the greetings tab, find that main open hours menu TTS file and change the name, right? I'll go over it in more detail when we get there, but basically you click on the little wrench icon, change the name, click on save changes. That way you don't have to worry about having 5 versions of main open hours menu TTS and not knowing which one is which without having to listen to them. You can upload your own file, right? .wav, .mp3, click on choose file to find the file on your computer, upload, update, save, and save changes. Choose from existing recordings. This is a pull down that shows all your existing media files, right? So main greetings, voicemail greetings, ringback files. Again, why you want names that you can easily recognize. Then you would click update, save, and save changes. You can record it over the phone. Now, it starts off with pick up VoIP phone registered to the account. Or pick up a phone registered to that. It actually means pick up a VoIP phone specifically, even though it doesn't say it that way. That's a security feature, right? Because if it's a VoIP phone registered on the account, the system knows, oh, this is associated with this account properly. It's secure to use. That doesn't work for everybody, right? Maybe you just want to use a cell phone or you have that friend who's got that great radio voice. That's fine. Then come down here under settings. And then where it says allow outside recording, turn this on, right? You would then click save and save changes. That allows you to record your main greeting from any phone. You would then dial your main number. And then when you hear the existing greeting play, you would enter this PIN number. Now, this PIN number is specific to this time of day on this account. Right? So if I called in on Saturday and try to enter this PIN number, it wouldn't work. Right? I would get an invalid entry message because my system isn't open on Saturdays. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is this: when you record over the phone, you're recording over the existing main greeting that's there. Right? So there's no option to create a new file over this way. Lastly, you have the option for professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and taking you to Snap Recordings, which is a separate company. They have something like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly typically via credit card. Then they email you the completed file. So then you can come up here to upload your own file, find it, save changes. All right, settings. So first up here, we have number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake, right? Typically, anywhere from 0 to 3 is fine for most accounts. But basically, I'm saying, right, whoops, right, that my inbound callers can make up to 4 mistakes. Right? They get 4 total attempts, 3 mistakes. Right? If I change this down to 1, now they get 1 retry or 2 total attempts to get through to the system. Dialing timeout, the system will default this to 10, which I think is too long. But this is how much time the system listens for an additional button press, right? So caller calls in and enters 5. The system will wait for, in this case, 5 seconds before it assumes, oh, they're done. And then, verifies, okay, there's no menu option 5. I don't have an extension number 5. Then it will say invalid entry or replay the main greeting. And we already covered allowed outside recording. When you're done recording your greeting over the phone, you want to turn this back to off, just as a security feature, so someone can't randomly enter your PIN number and then change your main greeting on you. Allow dialing extensions, by default, this is on. And this just means that if someone calls in and enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. Right? If I turn this off, that means my inbound caller can only press these menu options to get anywhere. Entering a valid extension number won't go through. And then suppress the playing of invalid entry. So on that last attempt, the system would say, we did not recognize your entry, and then either transfer the call, and it would do that because there's a default action, or if not, it would say goodbye, right? So we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, or we did not recognize your entry, and then transferring your call. So if you have a default action, you might want to turn this suppression on, so that way there's no message about we didn't recognize your entry and transferring. It just starts transferring. All right, so any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you want to click Save down here. And then when you're taken back to the incoming call handling box, you want to click Save Changes. Right, so you're clicking Save twice. After hours, I'm using the second option, and this is referred to as the Live Operator Answer option. In this case, I'm offering calls to my support group first. Right? If they can't answer the call, then the caller is sent to my virtual receptionist. Now, this is a pull down, so I can select any user, any group, any device on my account, or queue for that matter. And if they're not able to pick up, it would still go to a virtual receptionist. This is after hours, so I have different menu options. I have a different greeting in place, right? And possibly different settings. But beyond that, it's the same as the same main virtual receptionist. Holidays, I'm using this third option. Here, I'm telling the system, don't offer it to anything, just send it to this particular voicemail box. Now, this first pull down, again, I can send it to anywhere on the account, right? So, specific device. I have a emergency contact, or my emergency support person for the holidays. I can select that user, right? I can select a group. I can select a queue. In this case, you can even select a media file, right? Saying, hey, it's the holidays. We're not here right now. And then the second pull down, any voicemail box on the account. And then you would click on Save Changes. Main conference room number, you can add multiple conference room numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. You can also do a custom greeting, which is just text to speech. Right? You would click Enable, type in your greeting, 250 characters. Even if I left this disabled and I call the conference room number, right, the system still has a default greeting in place that says, welcome to the conference, and then ask them to enter the conference room number and then PIN number. Main fax box number, you can have one main fax box number. Once you've added one, you can edit the fax box. First up is the inbound notification email, right? Designed to put an email address to the right. That means anytime you get a fax, that email address gets an email. And the body of the email has the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, and a PDF attachment, right? So then you can click on it and view the fax. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, let's say from their cell phone, right? They hear fax tones, most people are going to hang up. This email still gets an email saying, hey, there's a failed inbound fax attempt, right? It'll have the date, the time, the phone numbers involved. There'll be no PDF attachment. But in the body, if it's, where it has the phone number of the inbound caller, if it says wireless number, right, dead giveaway, wrong dial, wrong number, right? You don't have to worry about it. If it's from a fax number you recognize or are expecting a fax from, you'd want to let the other party know, hey, it didn't get through. Email permissions. This is actually designed to put your company email domain in the right, or you can put it like a specific email address. But in this case, anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out on this account, even if they're not a user on the account. Right? They just create an email, put +1 area code and phone number, put the account realm, attach a PDF or TIFF, and click send. Right? The system doesn't look at the to field, or it doesn't. Sorry, the system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. It doesn't look at the subject line. It doesn't look at the body of the email. Right? So anything you type in those two areas does not get transmitted. Right? So if you need a fax cover sheet, you actually need to include that as part of your PDF or TIFF file. All right, auto attendance is a plan-specific feature. Basically, this allows you to create additional attendance. The use cases of this are typically for if you have multiple accounts or multiple, I guess, businesses, and you want them on the same account. It's probably the better way of saying that. And so that way each business would have its own phone number and own greetings, for example. The other reason behind that would be if you want to do submenuing, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. Then each one of those would have its own like greeting in the appropriate language and go to the menu options, for people who speak the appropriate language. So up here at the top, you would click on Add Attendant, give it a name, give it an extension number, click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, you can click on the name. It defaults to saying this, right? Unavailable in main menu, i.e. standalone attendant, so secondary business, right? Now, if you want it to be a submenu option, just click on it, and now it says available in main menu, meaning you can set up as a menu option under your virtual receptionist. It can even be a next action location for one of your groups. And then you would click on Save Changes, and if you don't need an attendant anymore, you can delete it here, right? These add attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? Buy from new or add from spare. Got the little gear icon here. Auto attendants can have multiple extensions if you need them to, right? You would just click on Add Extension and add the additional extension number. Your customers are probably never going to know these extension numbers for your auto attendants, but this is what your staff would use to transfer people to the appropriate business or group. Little wrench icon here under settings. You see open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? These times match what you set up under main number, right? So any phone number that you have on your auto attendants have the same open hours as your main number would. But beyond that, they only have the option to go to the virtual receptionist for each case, right? So you can set up the menu options as well as the greetings and settings. And then you would click on save and then save changes. The devices, right, shows your devices on the account. Red means they're unregistered, right? So in the case of soft phones, maybe they're not logged in. Physical VoIP phones, they're maybe not plugged in or they're having a network problem of some type. A green device, we can send calls to them. And then down here at the bottom, the black one, that's one I have disabled, right? That's my unregistered phone from the dashboard page. You can add devices here, right? SIP phone, cell phone, etc. The main thing I want to point out is the soft phone. There's no toggle down here at the bottom, right? So adding a soft phone directly here on the devices page only allows you to add a third-party soft phone. So if you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone app, you need to do it directly on the user. Now, there's a little wrench icon here under Edit. So you could go to, for instance, emergency caller ID. So you can select a specific phone number on your account that has you set up E911 on, and then click on Save Changes, right? So that way, when anyone picks up this phone, right, and dials 911, this is the address information that gets transmitted to emergency services. All right, the Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account, right? Name, just what the name of the file. Source, you've got TTS, right? Text to speech. Upload, right? Uploaded file. Recording, recorded over the phone. The play icon, basically you click on the little play button here to the right, and that will play back the greeting directly in your browser. If for some reason that doesn't work, you can also go to the download button here and just download it to your device and listen to it on your device's media player. This is also something I recommend to do with your typical main greeting, so you have a backup copy somewhere. You have a little wrench icon, so you can change the name, right? So that main open hours menu TTS, you can change it, right? You also have the option to delete a file if you no longer need it. You can upload new files here, but you can't assign them here. But give it a name, find the file on your computer, click on Create Greeting, and it will then upload it. So then it can be available from the pull down from existing files. Next up, we have the Numbers tab. Starts you off on your numbers in use, right? So show us where the numbers are assigned. You can't unassign or assign numbers here, but you do have the gear icon, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. Spare number tabs, these are the numbers you're not currently using. Now, if you want to get rid of numbers, which I probably want to do because I have a fair amount on this account now, then I would come over here and I would click on the box in front of the numbers. Now I have the option to delete up here. Shows up, says, are you sure? I confirm the deletion. And now I have 2 less phone numbers on my account. All right, by numbers, local toll-free, we just add more spare numbers to my account. Port is to move a phone number, right? So you're moving a phone number from, say, AT&T to VirtualPBX. Click on New Port Request, give it a name, choose local or toll-free, click Next. System's going to want you to upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill from the current carrier, so from AT&T. Then there's a form to fill out on the following page. Things like the company name, the address, etc. That should match what AT&T has on file for you. It will ask for the BTN or billing telephone number. If you're porting one number, just use that phone number as the BTN. If you're porting multiple, you're going to need to talk to the current carrier. Some phone numbers need a PIN number to port out, and that's typically, we see that mostly with mobile carriers. So you need to get that from your mobile carrier. You want to request a porting PIN or account transfer PIN, something of that nature. Your normal account PIN won't work. right? It needs to be a transfer pin or porting pin. Then you'll be given the opportunity to download a blank LOA or letter of agency. You need to have that filled out and signed. And then you can upload that to the system. The signature can be a digital signature file, or you can print it out and sign it manually and scan it back in. And then you submit the form. You'll get an automated email right away saying, hey, you've submitted your report request. You'll get a second email within the next business day from our porting team. Basically lets you know that an actual human has looked at the files and basically said, hey, everything looks okay. We've submitted the port request. Typically speaking, toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days to complete if everything is correct. Local numbers vary, right? Some have completed the next business day, but the typical average is 2 to 3 weeks, assuming everything is correct. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure there wasn't a typo or some other, error that we should have caught. Or in the case of an address error, if you have 2 different addresses on your LOA, we try both addresses. Now, if everything, we can't find any like typo or mistake, then we let you know saying, hey, we're getting a rejection for this reason. At that point, you would have to contact the current carrier to find out what the correct porting information is. And usually it's because something didn't get updated properly on their side. All right, voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything with an entry under this user column here, that's a voicemail box that was created at the same time as the user. Generally speaking, you do not want to delete a user's voicemail box. Even though you can create a voicemail box on this page, any voicemail box you create on this page, you'll not be able to add directly to a user. All right, but you would do this for like a voicemail box for your groups or call queues if you're making them, or just like a general voicemail box that you want to have. Right, so when you do so, give it a name, give it a voicemail box number, give it a PIN number, click on Create Voicemail Box. We're going to go down here to my support box. And okay, hold on a minute. Oh, there we go. Don't know why that took so long. So the basic information, right? The voicemail box number, PIN number, that's what you would use to check messages over the phone, right? Change its greeting over the phone, etc. Now, one thing I should point out, the voicemail box number is not the same as an extension number, right? So someone from my virtual receptionist, they call in, they get to my virtual receptionist. If they enter 3333, they're not getting to this voicemail box, right? They'll most likely get an invalid entry unless I have an extension that matches the 333 number. Now, under advanced, we have greeting media. So the media file is your normal greeting that plays. Right? You can upload a file, right? MP3 or .wav. Up to 1 megabyte, excuse me. The temporary file, that's for the out of office or vacation message, right? So if you have both a temporary and media file selected, only the temporary file plays. The media file will not play again until you set temporary back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But for any voicemail box, you can add additional recipients, right? You would just click add and then enter the email address. Keep clicking add until you're done. And then once you're done, click on save changes. And then options. So once a voicemail box has a voicemail greeting and recipients, you can click on already set up. And that just means you don't have to call, you won't be able to call in and change it over the phone, right? You'd have to uncheck that and then you can change the greeting over the phone. You'd want to double check to make sure you have the attached emails here. And then for extremely busy voicemail boxes, you might want to have the delete after notification checked. So like this is my support voicemail box. I don't want this to ever get full, right? Because that would be a little disconcerting for my customers. So in this case, I have it checked to delete after notification. So what that means, right? Customer ends up leaving a voicemail. The system emails out that message to the multiple addresses I have listed, and then it deletes the voicemail from the system, right? So in this case, I'm not calling in to listen to messages. I'm just relying on getting those messages via email. All right, Virtual Text Forward, this is an add-on. This allows you to have numbers accept inbound text messages and forward them on, right? But it's not for two-way communication via text. Up here at the top, you click on Add Number. It's going to give me a form to fill out, right? So I choose a number on my account, and I choose to either enter an email or a webhook. Now, webhook would mean you have webhooks enabled on your account, which is a plan-specific feature. And essentially, that means you're linking your Dash account with other software. Most customers end up using an email address. And then you click on Create Text Forward. So you see I have these multiple phone numbers here. Whenever a text is sent to one of them, the system will email, right? Send an email to the associated email address saying, hey, you have a text. Here's what the text message is, and then you can work from there. Virtual extensions is a plan-specific feature. You click up here to add extension. You give it a name. You give it an extension number, and then you click on Create Extension. Then you would click on the device box to add a device. Now, right, SIP phone, cell phone, etc. The soft phone can only be a third-party soft phone, right? Because there's no email address associated with it. You can only use a third party, right? The VirtualPBX soft phone needs an email address associated with it, so it has to be assigned to a user, right? This does not count as a user. So a virtual extension can be a menu option, right, from your virtual receptionist, right? It has an extension number, so someone can dial the extension number and reach this virtual extension. Right? There's no voicemail associated with other features. Just be aware of that. Call logs. This shows your call history on the account. You can go by today, for the whole week, the current month, or custom, right? And then you can choose your date range and then click filter. Yeah, any of these options you can download. It's a CSV file, so if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get some more information out of the call logs. The green arrow to the right is an inbound call that came into the system. And in this case, you're seeing two legs, right? This first leg is the inbound caller calling into the system. The second leg is from the system out to my user, and I can see what device was used. Right, this yellow arrow up here, right? That's an outbound call from the system. And again, I can see the device that was used and what number they're reaching out to. The little fire hydrant icon here next to the calls, this creates an email pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to have the technical information about the call. Please type in the body of the email the context, i.e., why are you sending this to us? We're not always going to know from what you typed in or what from the technical details why you're sending it in. We just know, hey, you sent us an email, and there's technical information, but there's no specifics, right? Like if you're having poor call quality issues, for example, we won't know. It'll just say normal clearing, so then we'd have to ask you, why are you sending this in? In terms of this custom field panel, the system will let you go back up to 12 months. If you need to go further, you can contact our support team. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the information is not available. So if you need to keep your call log information for any sort of reason, you'd want to make sure you do this on a monthly basis, basically, to make sure you have it. And then we have feature codes. I've talked about a couple of these, but these are ways for your VoIP phone users to directly access VoIP phone features from their VoIP phones. Excuse me. This is also a page under the support pages, right? So you can do a search for feature codes. You can also do a search for phone commands cheat sheet, which will have the feature code and the contextual help. All right, next up under the menu icon, we're gonna go to blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to block phone numbers from reaching your staff members. So you would click edit blacklists, and you click add to create a new list. I'm just going to select an existing list, right? But you need to give it a name. And then you need to decide, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? By default, this is off, meaning call comes in and it's not presenting proper caller ID, we're letting it through. Right? If I turn this on, then they're not getting it through. Beyond that, down here, you click on add number. You put +1 area code number, right? No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking add until you're done. And then once you are done, you would click on save down here at the bottom right. Up at the top right, you click on back to settings. Make sure your list is over here on the right under selected, right? So you might have to click and drag it over, right? Like so. But even if it's already over on the right, then down here at the bottom right, click on update. Now, any phone number on these lists, when they'll reach your system, right? It'll show up in your call log. They're not going to get through to your staff members, right? So your staff members' phones won't ring. The inbound caller, here's a busy tone. Call recording. So this account is set up with AWS, so it's showing my AWS call recordings here. If you're using the built-in call recording, right, the non-AWS version, this would instead open up a new tab and take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. That page does have a login, which just uses your dash login information, but then you would view your calls, right, your recorded calls. You can play them back, download them, etc. Right here, in fact, I can go to a previous date range, click filter, right? I can see my inbound, outbound calls. And because this is the AWS setup, right, I could change it just to see the inbound calls, playback, download, etc. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows me to see the status of all my staff. Doesn't matter what phone they're using. In fact, I can also specify by device. Right, I can see who's available and who's busy. Over here on the right, parked call. If a staff member made use of the call parking feature, that parked call would show their phone number and their parking spot number. Active inbound calls, each one would be a blue box showing the caller ID of the inbound caller and who they're speaking to among my staff. Reports, another plan-specific feature, or add-on actually. This opens up a new tab. It takes you to reports.virtualpbx.com. Has its own login information, but you can basically create your own customized reports. If you go into the show notes, there's a link there for the advanced reporting demo to give you an idea of what can be done with the reports. If you're interested in that, you can add it. You go via add-ons. If there's several add-ons that you want to add, you probably want to talk to our account services team first to see if it makes more sense to change a plan versus, especially if all the add-ons have a cost associated with them, right? You want to see if it makes it more sense to go with a plan to save some money. Next up, the voicemails tab. This is an included feature. This lets you get to any voicemail box on the account, right? So if someone is saying, hey, so-and-so's voicemail box is full, you can come here, search for it. Here you can see their messages. Down here at the far right, you can play it back. You can download the file. put a check mark in front. As an admin, you can move the voicemail messages to different voicemail boxes, or you can change its status. Integration AWS, plan-specific feature. This is where you would go to link your account, right? So from AWS, we need the account or the access key ID, the secret access key, and the bucket, right? So that's the information from AWS you would need to put in here. You would then click on Save Changes to link the two together. Call Center, this opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com, uses your dash login to get logged in, and then you can set up or get logged into the queues. In the show notes, you can look at the ACD Queues Pro demo to see what queues are about. Again, they're an advanced version of groups. So you have different kinds of call routing options, like most idle, right? Whoever's been waiting the longest gets next call, or round robin, which will equalize out over time. Your staff members can mark themselves away from the queue. So like when they go to lunch, then they're never offered a call. Instead, go to the next available person, right? They can log themselves in and out as well, right? Beginning or ending of their shift. The call center also allows managers to eavesdrop in on a call, right? So they can listen in, whisper to help the agent out, or even barge in if things are getting out of control. So the call center is an upgrade off of existing plans. You definitely want to talk to our account service team if you're interested in that. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. All right, you would click on Create New Rule. I'm just going to click Edit here on an existing rule. All right, you give it a name, choose a phone number on the account, and in this case, I said, hey, whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number from their VoIP phones, right, the system will automatically change your outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected. Right, so it looks like a local call to the people they're calling. Right, this other option here, instead of an area code, I created a feature code. Right, so my staff members need to dial *951, then the area code and phone number they're reaching out to. And when they do that, the system will change their phone number, their outbound phone number, right, to this 916 number I selected. Faxes, this is your fax manager. So it's an included feature. Get to any fax box on the account. Here we have the inbound faxes, so I can see the date, the times, phone numbers involved. I can download the file, right, if for some reason I didn't get the email. Outbound fax tab, again, select the fax box. If you see a failure here, that means we had a problem communicating with the other fax number. And if you hover over the failed message, it will give you a reasoning. So sometimes we see like error with initial contact. Then that would be the phone number was a valid phone number, but we didn't hear fax tones. User busy would be we got busy tone. The email to fax log, this is where the system had a problem processing the initial request. You see the email addresses involved, so you can make sure the proper email address was used from the sender, as well as a proper format for the sendee. But you can click on the little eyeball icon here to the far right. And in this case, you see the error was no valid attachments, right? So either they didn't attach anything, or it was something that was not a PDF or a TIFF file. Number manager, this takes you to your spare number page. I'm going to skip down here to webhooks. Webhooks, plan-specific feature. This allows you to link Dash to other software. Click Add Webhook. This is some level of programming, so not something every customer makes use of. If you go in the show notes, there's the introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done to link Dash to other software. Excuse me. You'd want to talk to our sales staff if you're interested in adding webhooks to your account as they have some more information about that. We have SMS registration. Right? This is what you would do to go through to register your phone numbers for use with texting. Right? So here's about the registration. Here's where you would actually start the whole registration process, and then the status to see where you're at. And then the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. It starts you off on your voicemail tab. So you can see your new messages, who it came from. To the far right, you can play it back. You can download it. Also, as a user, you can click on the box and choose to change its status. Call history tab shows your call history. And you can change the date range and then see your calls. This is the extent of the data, right? The call log that the system admins have access to, going to be more complete, have more data. Fax tab only works with users that have their own fax box, but they would see their fax history listed here. Contact list shows basically everything on the account, right? Feature codes, other users and their extensions, groups, auto attendance, etc. Conference tab. Yeah, for some reason this isn't loading. Our engineers are taking a look at that, so I apologize. On the right-hand side is where your users would adjust their conference PIN numbers, right? And they would want to make sure that the moderator and participant PIN numbers are different from each other. They can also have users join muted or deafened to the conference, as well as play entry and exit tones. While in a conference, they can come to this page and click on the plus icon to invite other Dash users to the conference. They can lock a conference. They can mute everybody, unmute everybody, or hang up the conference. Also in a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little blue box. So a moderator can mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person if necessary. And then we have the settings and devices tab right here. That's where your users can enable call forwarding on their own. They just put a check mark here, put +1 area code and phone number, and then save. And now they're call forwarding. All right, then click uncheck, and now they're not call forwarding. All right, and that is everything. I haven't seen any questions come through, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today, and we'll be back again next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time.